What's good, everybody? It's the Real AG here, back at you again on the Lockdown Defense Sports Network, returning with my boy. You know him, you love him, the degenerate in-house gambler himself,
Yes,
young
sir.
RG. And we are continuing on our little series of, off-season moves that we think are going to push teams over the edge or, take them to that next level. So continuing on our little review series here, we got an exciting little segment that we are calling the game-changing move. Reviewing which teams made that one off-season addition that we think will, get them over the hump or take them even further down the playoff tree that they've been on these past few years. Like thinking of, moves in the past, like obviously Saquon to the Eagles, McCaffrey to the Niners, or even, as RG pointed out backstage, maybe my boy Tyreek to the Dolphins, all those types of moves that turn those teams into year in, year out playoff contenders. So looking at the AFC here, our first offseason addition or game-changing move, we're going to throw it over to the young RG.
Yes, sir. We're gonna go with Geno Smith here for all the Raider haters out there who say that Charger fans can't ever talk ball. Look, I can give credit when credit is due. All right, and obviously at 4-13, and with the flurry of moves that the Raiders did make this offseason, I truly do expect them to bounce back in a big way. Kind of similar to what the Chargers did last season, in which they get a last place schedule. You completely revamp the coaching staff, completely revamp the team itself. Although the Chargers didn't, completely overhaul the offense with the new quarterback and whatnot. The Raiders, top, highest pick of a running back since Bijan, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's pretty high up there. Obviously, the big trade for Geno Smith here. Ton of other moves that they made as well. But I truly do think that Geno to the Raiders will significantly help this team and give them a much needed boost to quarterback play. The Raiders last season, their leading passer was the boy Gardner Minshew, who threw for
never good.
2,013 yards. No, it's never good. They basically had three quarterbacks last year that they kind of rotated in and out at one point. It was Minshew who played the most, essentially, followed by AOC, Aiden O'Connell, and then Desmond Ritter kind of came in for some, I don't even know if you want to call it backup duty, but
Lost hope.
yeah.
Effort.
That they were tanking for the draft pick at that point. So it is what it is, but I think Geno, obviously Genti will significantly help that as well. But I think that Geno Smith will give them a much needed solidified presence at the QB position. I mean, in his last 3 seasons with the Seahawks, he obviously has been there for 5 seasons, but really only started for the 3. And in those 3, he's thrown for over 4,200 yards in 2 of them. His quarterback rating has been above a 92 in all 3 of those seasons. His best one was the first one in 2022 when he had the rating of 100.9, and kind of went down a little bit in 2023, up back again in 2024. But I just think that, and I said this since last season when we were talking about the division, and I correctly predicted that the Chargers would sweep the Raiders. I said that the Chargers just simply had the better QB. And in this day and age, when you just have the better QB, and then not to mention the terrible team that was around the Raiders QB, it's just, that's what's going to happen. So I think Geno, with this revamped run game and this entirely revamped Pete Carroll visioned offense, I think the Raiders can easily double their win total from last season. Go 8-9 wins. Would not surprise me one bit to see them kind of make that leap, just given the talent that got better. I mean, Geno Smith is, I don't care what you think of Geno, he is miles and miles better than Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. It's just the truth. And he goes back with the head coach that he started with in Seattle. So I really like this move a lot. I think this will obviously be the biggest reason the Raiders bounce back. Obviously, Genty will be a huge contributor, but Geno just being that solidified presence at the QB position to where defenses aren't just going against the Raiders like, all right, well, as long as we take away the run, we're golden because we don't even got to worry about who's throwing the ball. Geno actually gives you somewhat of a worry. He's extremely accurate. He's worked with great receivers in the past. He has great receivers to work with in this offense. Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers are great receivers. I say receivers as just a pass catcher. Obviously, Brock Bowers is a tight end. He also has Michael Mayer, although I think did they trade him or are they looking to trade him?
I think they're shopping him
I think they're
around,
shopping
but
him, something like that.
you
At this
know,
point, he's still there, but and they've also picked up some draft acquisitions as well. So yeah, I really like Geno for the Raiders, much to the chagrin of me being a Chargers fan.
Same over here as the
Yeah,
Chiefs fan, but I have to regretfully agree with you because you think about like when they lost Derek Carr, and honestly, I mean the Raiders were always pretty consistent. Like always, I felt like got at least 8 wins when Derek Carr was there, whether Raiders fans
division
love
games were
that or
close.
not. But he produced, and they haven't had
Yep,
that stable presence since he left. And obviously, Geno, you know, the man that they tried to write off, and he didn't write back. But
hitting right back.
he's a journeyman QB, worked his way up to being a solid NFL quarterback, and I agree. Is probably that missing piece to help keep things steady on the offensive side of the ball. Like I think back to, when they lost to the Chiefs. I think it was the second game the Chiefs played last year, but ended on that fumbled snap that O'Connell like kind of freaked out and called it. And like Geno Smith's not going to make that type of mistake because he's been around the game long enough. He's familiar with the coach and the system. It's honestly the perfect pairing for a team trying to turn things around. So I definitely agree with you on that one. Moving on, I guess a little bit of a different flavor because it's not necessarily a team that really needs to turn around all that much. But I think a big offseason move is the Ravens drafting safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia. And I say it from the perspective of you look at who you're pairing him with. Like obviously uber athletic, maybe not as athletic as Imawari, but hey, still uber athletic, highly productive SEC football safety that you're pairing with Kyle Hamilton, who is arguably one of the best safeties, or certainly an emerging elite safety in the NFL right now. If Malachi Starks is a hit of a draft pick, I mean, arguably the Ravens have the most elite safety duo in the NFL. And just think of the versatility and flexibility that brings to a, pretty stout, historically stout Baltimore defense, but just allows them to do even more and gives Lamar and the offensive side of the ball even more comfort. Because, I mean, if you have two all world safeties, it's going to be hard for teams to be doing a lot over the top on you. So, that's I think just the pairing of who they brought in, if it's a hit of a pick, you're arguably returning Baltimore to those uber stout early 2000s, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed type defenses, which could be scary for the whole NFL. I mean, I see the record here. They obviously went 12-5 last year, but I think something like that, if it is an elite pairing, could get them to that next level and back to stomping on the door to get to a Super Bowl. So that's my first off-season game-changing move.
Yeah, I really like that as well. I think the Ravens, like you mentioned, always having that historically great D, and that's always kind of what's made that team a perennial playoff appearance
Yeah.
contender. They're always kind of fighting for that division, whether they make it in through a wild card or through winning the division, because obviously we know the AFC North is a very tough division. But they're a constant there. They're a constant in the AFC playoff picture. And like you mentioned, yeah, this is just adding to an already stout defense. The Ravens are clearly upset as they should be with the way their season ended last year at the hands to the Bills. So they certainly don't want that to happen again. And you see that kind of in their draft class and obviously with this pick.
Yeah, no doubt. So
Yes, sir.
moving
Yes, sir.
on, young
Yes, sir.
RG. Little
All right.
hometowner here
All
for
right.
you.
All right. Now listen. Listen up. I promise this is not me saying this as a Charger fan. I am purely I am purely speaking on this. Look, I threw Raiders in there just for the self.
You
No, I'm
did.
joking.
You did.
I'm not joking. Look, I truly do think that Mekhi Becton is a more massive piece than people are, well, quite literally and figuratively, than people are giving credit for. Because this Chargers offense in the first year under Harbaugh obviously did what I predicted the Raiders are going to do this season, which is double their win total from the season prior. Obviously went 5-12 last season, almost flipped that record exactly, went 11-6. But a huge part of the Harbaugh vision for this team was to, of course, run the football. And the Chargers were, I believe, 13th in the league in terms of rush attempts, but they were somewhere in the middle of the pack. Actually, like somewhere, let me see here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 6. Yeah, they were like 17th. So, yeah, basically right in the middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards. So, obviously, didn't get the production on the ground that they were hoping for. Dobbins was obviously a huge addition, and we absolutely loved him on this team for what he provided. But at the end of the day, in his 13 games played, he rushed for 905, did average 4.6, which is, you absolutely love to see that. But as I mentioned, the entire run game as a whole was not as productive as it should have been. And that really reared its ugly head in the playoff game against the Texans when you basically couldn't do anything on the ground. And not to mention the Chargers' interior O-line as an entire unit last season ranked, I think, bottom 3 in terms of blocking efficiency in both the run game and the passing game. So I think Mekhi Becton, obviously coming from the Super Bowl champion Eagles, blocked for Saquon Barkley for that 2,000-yard season, so has that under his belt. Obviously, has a ring. Like, I just think he brings so much needed experience, and I mean, just his story as well. First round pick, went to the Jets, absolutely flamed out there, goes to Philly and just revitalizes his career. Shocker, goes to the O-line factory in
Yeah.
Philly and just completely turns his
Who would have
career
thought?
around. Yeah, who would have thought? Yeah, exactly. Hey, if you're a guard and you feel like your career's somehow coming to an end, just make your way to Philly somehow, man. They pump out O linemen there like it's nobody's business. So I think this was a slam dunk, home run, whatever you want to call it, pick or signing for the Chargers this season. And I truly do think that this offense under Harbaugh will be unlocked now that, Mekhi Becton is in the fold.
No, yeah. No, as again, continuing on this trend of the Chiefs fan talking about how much I love an offseason edition for division rival, I have to agree with you. That this mammoth human being brought in, I think, is only step 2 of what Harbaugh said he was going to do when he got in. Rebuild the team through the trenches. Obviously, saw him do that with Joe Alt. Doubles down by bringing in another twin tower to pair with him, on the right side of the line.
Yep.
I will note to our viewers, like, this is a very shrunken down version of this photo. That's just
Yeah.
how massively huge this dude is, just like a Kimbo Slice out here. But yeah, like you said, you love the story. Obviously, was a tackle, drafted pretty high for the Jets, moved into a more natural fit at guard. And again, I mean, I'm assuming they're planning to start him at right guard, where they've had serious, questions. I mean, for quite some time, thought you had it answered. Well, I guess Zion was left, but gives you an answer to finishing the interior part of the offensive line. And again, just only further solidifies what Harbaugh wants to do, helps out Omarion Hampton. And I think, we see an inverse of those numbers you kind of talked about, where they're going to still be pretty high up there in terms of rushing attempts, but you're going to see a little more return on investment in yards. And, that's what you need to do in this quarterback driven league, especially in the AFC West. Like, the way to beat, Mahomes and these elite offenses is keep them off the
Keep
field.
him
And
off
you
the
do
field.
that with
Yep.
time of possession. through the run game. So
You see
yeah,
the Raiders try to do it. The Chargers both taking running backs in the first round. I mean, yeah,
it's
this
the
is the
name
new
of the
era
game.
we're in. The running game is returning to keep the quarterbacks off the field.
No doubt,
We're just going
man.
in a cycle.
Yeah, just like back to the early 2000s. But
Yep.
yeah, I do love the signing for the Chargers, and I think it is going to be a game changing offseason move for them. And then to wrap things up with our AFC game changer preview here. Ironically, me and RG here, as a Charger and Chiefs fan, did not mean to put three AFC West teams in
Nope.
this, but that's just how it goes, I guess, when you see these teams making the moves that they did. Broncos, obviously, I think, we're pretty active in the offseason, made a lot of moves, a few of which I think could be that game changing move for them, unfortunately. But the one that really stuck out to me, that's Trey Greenlaw, the linebacker that they signed, from the 49ers. I obviously, will concede. I am fully aware of the injury concerns he's kind of carried. Got hurt and tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Just from unfortunate kind of fluke injury, and then didn't really get back onto the field in 2024. Only played 34 snaps, but you look at the fact that he just turned 27. He was one of the top linebackers in the NFL pre-injury. They signed him to a 3-year, $35 million deal, which is a decent chunk of change, but not, a cap breaking type of investment. So, if you look at just this is an already stacked unit, big part of the reason why the Broncos went 10-7 and made the postseason. And you just look at what they added to that, could it make it, truly elite? Because you look at they're pairing potentially, if healthy, one of the best off ball linebackers in the league with a pretty elite pass or edge rushing group that got 63 sacks last year. An interior disruptive player in Zach Allen, and then the secondary that includes Patrick Surtain and Riley Moss. If you get a healthy Greenlaw in the middle of that, I mean, it's hard to envision a lot of offenses getting a whole lot of traction against them.
Yeah.
And you see, I mean, Chiefs games were super close, one score. A lot of their games, they were third in points allowed in the league. So a lot of their games were super close, super low on the scoreboard. And I think you can see that kind of be influx this year if, Greenlaw comes back healthy, Ufunga is a solid signing. It's a scary move for the Broncos, and one that, like I said, could make their already pretty damn solid defense truly elite for 2025.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. As we've been kind of the theme of this video, much to our chagrin,
Yeah, right.
The teams in our division have been making very good moves, and this doesn't even mention the Broncos. Obviously, their first round draft pick, Jedi Barron, who we all thought was an absolute steal going to them at 20.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? And as keeping on the trend of the running backs, they take RJ Harvey in the second round. Just further cementing that idea that all these teams do not want to see Mahomes on that field as much as they can, and they will be running the ball as much as possible to avoid seeing him. So yeah, I think this is, like you said, a great signing for them. Obviously the injury concerns, but if he's able to play at even 13 games out of the 17, you can't help but feel that this was a great signing and a worth it signing, as you'd say.
Yeah.
I think the deal, like you mentioned, is very team friendly and player friendly. Like, he got his money, but like you said, the team isn't contractually tied to him for that very long. So yeah, I think, like you're already just echoing everything you said, great pick for the Broncos, and I absolutely hate it.
Yeah. Unfortunate for us AFC
Unfortunate.
West fans,
Yes, sir.
opposing AFC West fans, but going to be an exciting 2025 season. We'll have to put a little pin in this video to see
Yes.
how accurate these game-changing signing predictions truly are. But, I think if you just read the tea leaves on what these players are bringing into the team that they are joining, it's hard to not see how game changing these signings can be. But that does wrap up our game-changing moves AFC edition video. As always, please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Like the video on YouTube. If you agree with our game-changing signings, let us know. If you disagree, let us know as well. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to get any of us on social media, there's that info right there. Go out and find us. If you want to find more Lockdown Defense Sports Network content, well, there you have it. We're basically everywhere your smartphone can go. So get at us, please, anywhere and everywhere. Until next time, though, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the real AG. That's the young RG. And we'll see you when we see you. Step up and lock it down, baby.